Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to class. It's 5 p.m., but we're just 17 here. So I'll need you to go and get your fellow class members. Tell them that class is on. We'll just give 1 minute for that. Today's class is with the ED, the Electoral Act. So I'll just give 1 minute for you to go and tell everyone in your group that class is on, and then the ED will come up. Okay, so the time is 5:02, 5:03 right now. And I would like to invite the ED to take the class. Welcome, ED. You have the floor.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much, Lisa. Good afternoon. And I would like to
Good
welcome you guys.
afternoon.
So, good evening, actually. It's supposed to be. So, I'd like to welcome everyone to the Electoral Act. First and foremost, we have just 35 people in the class. Lisa, who's taking attendance for this class?
Miriam.
Okay. Miria should note that everybody that has attended right now at this point, so we have 36. I'm marking 36, 35 actually now. Everybody that is 35 should be marked as attended this class. Anybody else that comes in or anybody else in this class is taking a -1 for absence. Please effect that immediately. I think we have reached a point where we need to understand that there's more to the college, there's more to discourse, and there's more to even understanding what Nigeria is than what we tend to show. And it's quite sad. It's quite sad that when we ask ourselves what goes on in Nigeria, we never find or blame ourselves for what exactly goes on. So this is a course on politics and governance. Most of us do not understand politics of government. Given our truth, most of us are not party to it. Most of us do not care if it means anything. But we're quick to go to social media to make funny comments and say, this is like this is like this, based on our biases, stripes, and whatever. I've had conversations with students that have graduated from these courses. And I've asked them, if you were to pay for the college classes, how much will you pay for it? Lots of people have not been able to quantify it. Yeah, it's a lackadaisical attitude by people in the cohort. Clearly states to me that I know the reason Nigeria is exactly where it is. Like I said, my good chair is ED. No matter how hard it is, we'll graduate too. If I those two are worthy of the certificate, regardless of how much the college has spent or has put into it. Because you keep asking yourself the questions. Nigerians want to argue politics, want to argue different matters, and you're totally oblivious to what's going on. And you see this in media spaces, as on social media, general space. What you also notice is on some media, that's television, print media, and audiovisual media. You have people that argue things or argue topics that they barely know anything about. But we like the noise of it, not the reality of it. Nations are not built on the noise of things. Nations are built on ideas because those ideas are bulletproof and they don't die. That's why nations thrive. But when you deal with rumors, smoke, fugazis, and things that are not true, and a culture of totally bad idea of the way things work, you're going to have a result of total anarchy, which is basic thing of what you have generally in Nigeria. So I'd like to introduce the Nigerian Electoral Act. I want this class to be a little bit interactive. So I'd like to ask this. Anybody could just raise up their hands. Charlie, are you there? Anybody could raise up their hands and tell me what they think about the Electoral Act, or what they thought about it, or whatever it is, or if you've ever looked at the document, if it's something new or something that is a waste, and you're allowed to say it in class, it doesn't affect my life, I'll do anything I want to do. Do you understand? So I think, Lisa, you can help with unmuting anybody who's raised their hands, and we can have this conversation. So briefly, you must be able to talk in 30 seconds. What is the Nigerian Electoral Act to you, and what do you think it exposes or connotes, or what do you think it provides?
Fauzia, you can go ahead.
All right, thank you, ma. Good evening. So, the Nigerian Electoral Act is not a new development. It's something that has been before now. So what I think it means is a guide that guides the electoral process right from the before the election, the election period and post-election period.
Wait, I didn't get you. You said what it needs. Is that what you said?
Yes.
You said what it needs is that it needs a guide to pre and post election periods, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. What's the name again? I didn't get it.
Okay,
Yes?
before you continue, I just wanted to say that Fauzia actually lost her dad recently. So for her to even be in class this evening is quite commendable.
On behalf of the Electoral College, we offer our most sincere condolences. Allah grant his soul rest. And thank you for still standing up and being focused in class. It means a lot, and we've noted it. Lisa has noted it, and I have noted it. Thank you very much. Oh, you even have my son named Lawal. Okay, I'll make you my sister by force. I just saw your son named Fozia Lawal. So thank you very much. I've become your sister by force. Okay? And when I become your brother, sorry, by force. You become my sister by force. Thank you very much, Fozia. Anybody else?
Okay, Obi Godwin, you can go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. Good evening, Edie. Electoral Act, to my understanding, is a principles is an electionary principles on which pre-election and post-election that guide pre-election and post-election processes in Nigeria. That's what I understand Electoral Act to be.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Is there anybody else?
Ajibola, you can go ahead.
What I think electoral is a legislation that governs the electoral processes, both within and either pre-election and post-election. It's just a process, and it is the legislation that governs that process. That is what electoral act means.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Lisa, is there anybody left?
Yes, Ilori Mikel, you can go ahead. Last
The last person, and Charlie can move to the first slide. That will be the last person. Thank you.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, ma'am. Electoral Act, to my understanding, is a law that guides the pre-election, election period, and post-election. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. So I'd like to introduce the Nigerian Electoral Act. So in the exercise of the powers conferred by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, and the Electoral Act 2022, as amended, the following as contained in it are regulations and guidelines for the conduct of elections, and elections opens up, which means general elections, by-elections, rerun elections, and supplementary elections in Nigeria. So if you could call the Electoral Act anything, you're going to call it the holy book of politics in Nigeria, or basically the election manual. So the Electoral Act contains how you're going to go from where you are to having a government. And this is quite instrumental because I don't know how you intend to engage in a democracy if you do not if you do not pay attention to the Electoral Act. And here's what's most critical. We have multiple conversations on elections in Nigeria, but they are always not based on the direction that there's the Electoral Act or its guidelines. Instead, what we have created is a culture, which I always say, a culture means, of course, definitive a way of life. So a culture of things that are wrong and not exist in the Electoral Act, but we have adopted as culture. As we go along, you're going to find out a lot of things that are stipulated that within the Electoral Act that a lot of us do not pay attention to, or do not even follow, or do not even kind of look at anything or care. Right? We just feel that we can talk or act without anything. I'll surprise you guys. Now, I think I've said this before in class. Now, according to the Electoral Act, INEC has the power to discharge elections how it deems fit. INEC broke a social trust clause with the people when it told everybody it was going to transmit totally electronically. But INEC did not break any laws from the laws guiding it as regards the Electoral Act 2022 as amended, because it already empowers it as it deems fit. So what INEC broke was the social trust, but not a law. It didn't break any law because it says INEC can transmit as deemed fit. And if Nigerians had read that thing, I'm sure Peter Obi's case and his lawyers in the Supreme Court would have been different. Atiku's case in the Supreme Court would have channeled themselves differently. I don't, sometimes I want to ask myself how there's so much information out there and people, I don't know, act emotionally, or I don't know what to call it. You just tend to do things in a funny way. And you get to ask yourself some questions. Charlie, could I have the next slide, please? Charlie, what did you do? Hello?
We can hear you. Ide. Can you see the screen? Okay, I think Ide went off pretty well.
Okay, I'm back. I've lost sight of the PowerPoint. Thank you. Thank you, Tyler. Sorry about that. So the Electoral Act was, of course, we all know we used to have the Electoral Act. I think that was amended first. So from 99, we had the Electoral Act amended, I think 2010 first, and then now finally amended in 2022. Now, some basic components of the Electoral Act are the establishment and functions of INEC, Nigerian registration of voters, and vote. That's Nigerian registration of voters and voter registration, procedure of elections, political parties, and electoral offenses. These are major components of the Electoral Act. Could I have the next slide, Talia? So, first and foremost, I'd like to ask the class, and this is critical. Did you guys, Talia, please, can you stay in one place? Thank you. Did you guys have a chance to look at the Electoral Act that was given to you guys in the cohorts that was dropped? Has any one of you looked at it? If you looked at it, you could just type in the chat box that you looked at it or something. You need to go through it. So yeah, scan through it. You're not supposed to scan through it. You're supposed to know it. So it's supposed to become a part of you. It is. Don't discuss elections if you haven't looked through it. So financial independence to INEC is one of the key things that the new act enables. So preceding the new act establishes the Independent National Electoral Commission Fund, wherein payments from the federal government investments made into the fund, wherein payments from the federal government, investments made from the fund, and other aids and grants shall be paid to enable the Independent National Electoral Commission, the Commission INEC, to perform its functions. Furthermore, the Act stipulates that the election funds due to Commission for any general elections are to be released not later than a year before the next general election. The provision grants financial autonomy to the Commission, as it may now receive funds for the conduct of elections directly, as opposed to getting funds subsequent to vetting by the Ministry of Finance as provided under the former Act. Does anybody remember 2019 elections and the fact it was moved? Does anybody remember 2019 elections and the date was moved? Does anybody here remember? If you remember, just raise your hand. I don't know, so I can't see the hands raised. Lisa, could you help with that? Does anybody remember 2019? Sheriff,
Thank you, madam.
beautiful. Quickly.
Sure. Sure, if you can go ahead.
Okay, it seems Sheriff is not here. We'll proceed with the class. So 2019 elections, what apparently happened was that election was moved. I remember the elections, everybody was saying February and whatever they deemed it. So sometime in February. I think I can't remember. I think 15th of February, if I'm right, 2019. And it was moved by 2 weeks. For some of us running, that was like the worst thing that could ever happen in history. Because and the election was moved because finances were not made available to INEC on time. So the election had to be moved by days to end because procurement of things and etc. So that's why this thing happened. And that's why this clause was included. Can I have the next slide, Charlie? Charlie, could you go back, please? So these are key changes in the 2022 amendment. So we've spoken about financial independence. We'll now go to the next one. Second. Charlie, next slide. So now they became an extension of time frame for publication of election notice. So the new act provides that the commission shall, not later than 360 days before the day approved of holding of an election under this act, publish a notice in each state of the federation and the Federal Capital Territory stating the date of election and accounting the place at which nomination papers are to be delivered. This notice is to be published in each constituency.
Okay.
Who is unmuted now? Lisa, what's going on?
Anyway, I know what's champ.
Performing host functions and then also taking this class. Lisa and Co, please. So stating date of election and appointing the place at which nomination papers are to be delivered. This notice is to be published in each constituency in respect of which an election is to be held. This is in contrast to the provisions of the erstwhile Electoral Act, which provided that the Commission should publish this notice not later than 90 days before the due of election. The effect of this extension of time frame is to give the Commission more time to prepare for the election and also give the political parties no excuse as regards to candidacy and the partisan and propaganda politics that comes with choosing a candidate and preparing for a campaign. However, for by-elections, the new act retains the same provision of the old act. The time frame for publishing a notice is still, I think, if I'm right, 30 days. So I think I've left the conversation. Lisa, are you there?
Yes, please.
Lisa, if there's a floor like this, I think you should. Can you share the slide for me? Because I don't know where Charlie has gone.
Okay, please give me a minute.
Lisa, the one from right? Hello? Could I have the next slide,
Okay,
please?
she's back. Yes.
Could I have the next slide, please? So now appointment of early party primaries, and you saw this in new elections. If you voted in 2019 and 2015, you find out that things have changed. So under the new act, political parties are mandated to submit the list of their sponsored candidates who have emerged from valid primaries conducted by the party not later than 180 days before the date appointed for a general election. This is in contrast to the former act, which prescribed that the submission should be done not less than 60 days before the date of the general elections. The change in time frame to submit the names of party candidates from 60 days to 180 days makes it compulsory for political parties to conduct their primaries early enough to meet up with the submission of the list of candidates at least 180 days before general elections. This is quite straightforward. Charlie, our next slide. Charlie, could I have the next slide, please? Lisa, are you there? Yeah, nobody can hear. Charlie, Charlie, are you there?
Yes, she's on the next slide.
Lisa, why didn't you answer? Because I'm thinking nobody is hearing me. You guys are hearing me talk, and all of you are keeping quiet.
What do you need, Edie?
What is going on? Color is off and on. Could somebody be stable with this PowerPoint, please? Lisa, Lisa,
Please give me a minute. Let me try sharing. I think Charlie is having an issue with us.
please stop Charlie from sharing anything because I don't know what she's doing. This is becoming a little frustrating. Okay, so while we're waiting for Lisa to come up with it, just a random question, and you could drop this in the chat box. You can answer just yes or no. Now, you're open. No answer is correct. No answer is wrong. Do you, as a Nigerian, think that the Electoral Act has failed us as a country, and it needs to be updated, or that it's not full? So you can say the Electoral Act has failed us. Yes or no? I'd like to see people's answers. So randomly, could we just like put out our answers? No, I haven't. No, I haven't. Ah, wait. So if the answers are all no, if the answers are all no, what then is going on? No, Lisa, you can move to the next slide. We're going to take up this question when we're done with the class if the answers are all no. So now we go to provisions for Central Electronic Voter Database. So the new act provides that the new act provides that the Commission shall keep the register of voters at its national headquarters and other locations, provided that the register shall be kept in electronic format in the central database, and in addition to being kept manual or in hard copy format. Under the former act, the register was kept in manual or hard copy format only. This provision is laudable as it will promote transparency and effectiveness in the Commission's record keeping and in tracking the number of registered voters who will be voting in the upcoming elections, thereby curbing illegal voting by non-registered voters. Lisa, please, next slide. Thank you. Now, revision of the definition of overvoting. Now, under the new act, where the number of votes cast at an election in any polling unit exceeds the number of accredited voters in that polling unit, the presiding officer shall cancel the result of the election in that polling unit. Now, number of accredited voters refers to the number of intending voters accredited to vote in an election on the election day. Under the former act, it is when the number of votes cast at an election in any polling unit exceeds the number of registered voters in that polling unit that the presiding officer shall cancel the result of elections in that polling unit. So based on the provisions of the new act, overvoting would mean where votes is cast at a polling unit, where means where voting is cast at a polling unit exceeds the number of accredited voters and not the number of registered voters as provided by the former act. Next slide, Lisa, please. Thank you very much. So the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, power of review. Now, under the new act, INEC has the power to review the final decision of the returning officer in respect of questions of unmarked ballot papers, rejected ballot papers, declaration of scores of candidates, and return of a candidate within 7 days of the decision, and return where the declaration was not made voluntarily or was made contrary to the provisions of the law or guidelines of the election. Now, under the provisions of the former act, the decision of the returning officer was only subject to review by an election tribunal or a court. Now, however, it appears that under the new act, the election tribunal or court can still review the returning officer's decision, but the act is unclear as to whether this is to be done after INEC's review or can replace INEC's review totally. It is the writer's view that this should be after INEC's review. Next slide, please. Now, exclusion of political appointees from acting as voting delegates or aspirants. Now, Section 84(12) of the new act stipulates that no political appointee at any level shall be a voting delegate or be voted for at the convention or any congress of any political party for the purpose of nomination of candidates for any election. This means that political appointees must relinquish their positions before they can be eligible to participate in the electoral process, either as a candidate or delegate. Next slide, Lisa. Now, death of electoral candidates. Now, the death of a candidate in elections has generated a lot of bickering among political parties and politicians in the past under the former act, leading to cases in our courts. To curb some of this mischief in the former act, the new act provides that where before the commencement of polls a candidate dies, the election shall be postponed and shall commence within 14 days of the candidate's death. This is what's going on.
Okay.
Hello? This is what's going on. Lisa, are you there? Can anybody in the class hear me, please? Okay. So where a candidate dies where a candidate dies after polls, but before the commencement of final winner announcement or final results. The implication is that the election will be suspended for not more than 21 days. Where the election is legislative house position, the election shall start afresh, and political party whose candidate died may, if it intends to continue to participate in the election, conduct a fresh primary within 14 days of the death of its candidate and submit the name of a new candidate to the commission to replace the dead candidate. For gubernatorial, presidential, and FCT area elections, the running mate shall continue with the election as the new candidate and nominate a new running mate. Lisa, next slide. Now, developing changes in the electoral process. Now, under the new act, the use of electronic devices such as smart card readers, electronic voting machines, and other technological devices are allowed in the accreditation process for voters in the general conduct of elections. Furthermore, the new act provides for electronic transmission of results in accordance with the procedure determined by the commission. I should have underlined this 5 times because that's where most of the conversations or arguments about the 2023 elections are emanating from. So can we go to the next slide, please? So these are key policy hotspots for clarity by the media. One of the key things we need to clear is diaspora funding. Now, diaspora funding, which was always, it looks like an anomaly, and was a common conversation within 2023 elections. I think in the case of Labour Party, the party wanted to receive donations personally from outside. That's not allowed by the Electoral Act. The Electoral Act can allow for presidential candidates to be funded by Nigerians abroad, but they cannot allow for parties to be funded by people abroad. So, diaspora funding, I think in the case, I was Labour, and it was a common argument in 2023, and I felt, and the Act clearly clarifies this. Candidates can receive funds from anybody, but there are limits on campaign funds. So now we're going to go to campaign limits for candidates. Now, I think while running for president, you cannot exceed 10 billion. The amounts are there. Go through this thing. There are campaign limits for every office. I think starting from chairperson, which I think is about, I don't know, 25? No, but I think 5 million. State House of Assembly is 25 million. And it goes up. There are limits for this. Now, methods of primaries also have changed. There's now consensus, and you practice that in the class. I don't think I need to flog that. Mode of candidate and campaign engagements by candidates are actually restricted by the Electoral Act. Like, I'll give an example. The Electoral Act frowns against the use of tribe or the use of even state machinery. State machinery refers to, I'll give an example. The APC fielded Festus Keyamo, who was Minister of State at the time, as a campaign spokesman. But here's what's funny. The states, you can't use state machinery. State machinery does not refer to machines. It refers to anybody employed by the state, meaning essays, whatever. So it means that essays, NTA Cardinal, NTA Lagos, or NTA whatever, are state machinery, cannot be used for campaigns. Clearly, the Electoral Act. And there are a lot of rules which political parties break. I'll tell you one of them. So every political party must submit its entire electronic register of members before campaigns. That's before any convention or primaries. This was not done by any of the political parties. 18 political parties didn't meet these parameters. Those that submitted didn't submit fully. PDP, APC, Labour Party, none of them met these parameters. But do you know why this exists? And INEC overlooks? Because nobody talks about it. So what you were arguing about and shouting about, that campaigns or whatever was supposed to end over. It was not what we're supposed to be discussing. Anyway, Lisa, next slide. Dynamics. Now, first one. 773, each political party shall make a register, just what I mentioned. Each political party shall make a register available to the commission not later than 30 days before the date fixed for the primaries, congresses, or convention. 88.1, election expenses shall not exceed the sum stipulated by subsection 2.7. The maximum election expenses to be incurred by a candidate at presidential election shall not exceed 5 billion naira. The maximum amount of election expenses that shall not be incurred by a candidate in governorship elections should not exceed 1 billion naira. The maximum amount of election expenses to be incurred by a candidate in respect of senatorial and House of Rep seats shall not exceed 100 million and 70 million, respectively. In the case of State House of Assembly elections, the maximum amount of expenses to be incurred by a candidate should not exceed 30 million naira. Case of chairmanship election for an area council, the maximum amount of expenses to be incurred by a candidate shall not exceed 30 million naira. Case of councillorship elections for an area council, council election or to an area council, the maximum amount of election expenses to be incurred by a candidate shall not exceed 5 million naira. No individual or entity shall donate to a candidate more than 50 million naira. Yet in Nigeria, we see people give out cars, 20 cars. They'll say it's not 50 million. You see where the problem lies. Anyway, next slide, Lisa. We'll have these conversations later. 92.1. A political campaign or slogan shall not be tainted with abusive language or indirectly likely to injure religious, ethnic, tribal, or sectional feelings. 2. Abusive, intemperate, slanderous, or base language or insinuations or innuendos designed to likely provoke violent reaction and emotions shall not be employed or used in political campaigns. 95.1. A candidate and his or her party shall campaign for the elections in accordance with such rules and regulations as may be determined by the Commission. State apparatus, including the media, shall not be employed to the advantage or disadvantage of any political party or candidates during the election. Arise TV, TVC, hope you know they hear this one. Anyway, back to it. 3. Media time shall be allocated equally among political parties or candidates at similar hours of the day. They will give NNPP and NRM 2 a.m. when nobody's watching. And they'll give PDP, APC, and Labour Party 9 o'clock, hot when everybody's watching. Excuse me. And this goes on. 84.12. No political appointee at any level shall be a voting delegate or be voted for at the convention or congress to any political party for the purpose of nomination of candidates for any election. 9.6. The registration of voters, updating and revision of register of voters under this section shall stop not later than 90 days before the election covered by this act. INEC broke this rule. INEC stopped registration of voters more than 3 months before the elections. Does anybody clearly remember? But nobody sued INEC over it. They were busy arguing the APC, PDP, and Labour Party. Next slide, listen. The Electoral Act 2022 is a laudable effort to keep the Nigerian electoral process up to standard with that of other democratic countries all over the world. And more so, the country approaches 2023 or now has passed the 2023 elections. It is only hoped that the provisions of this act are judiciously implemented to enable Nigerians to enjoy and exercise their political franchise before and after the 2023 election. The final frontier belongs to the media space, which are tasked with the responsibility of educating the electorate as the fourth estate. Last slide, Lisa, because I believe it's in conclusion.
This is the last slide.
I said, I think it's the last slide. That's why I said, is there any slide after that? No, right? So in conclusion, thank you, everyone. And this has been the Electoral Act. Now, I'm going to tell you something. You are allowed to ask me questions, but don't ask me questions that are not already provided for by the Electoral Act. So I believe the Electoral Act has quite a lot of your answers. And this PowerPoint, if you looked at it, would show you pointers where these things are. So I suggest when you're asking your questions, please, if it's anything on the PowerPoint which already has marked the subsection or whatever, I wouldn't be answering it, but it'll be me going back again and saying everything I said. So I'd like to hear your questions. Thank you, everyone. It was great having this conversation.
All right, thank you, Edie. I think we have a hand up already. Unmute.
Thank you, Lisa. Good evening, Edie. Thank you for your expository class. I'm asking you a question, not necessarily from the topic, but as a concern I have been having towards this very program, and you being the director of the Electoral College, I want you to throw more light on this. I know that Electoral College, ever since I joined, I've seen that they are driving towards a very successful path of something I have been wishing for. All part of the jobs of the Electoral College seems to me like this ordinarily should have been one of the jobs of the National Orientation Agency. Since it's been neglected, Electoral College is even doing more than that. And so I'm asking, what is our hope as like those of us who are will be graduated from Electoral College? How do we help to propagate this ministry? Because it's something that is worth recommending and is worth carrying on for a very long time, because I believe as time goes on, if about 70% of Nigerian youth become enlightened through this platform, then it might just help us to succeed on a term I usually call democratic revolution, because with this knowledge, we can now understand that everything we desire lies within us as a citizen. So how do you intend what resources is available for Electoral College to extend beyond this very few number of people that is being trained in, maybe, I don't know how often, but at the time like this, how often do you train people, and what is the dream of expanding this very college? Thank you, sir.
Well, that's not the question I expected, so thank you very much. I believe it will be Godwin, right? And first and foremost, I'd like to say something. The college has 4 cohorts every year. We plan to expand. Let me give you an example. Lisa, how large is this cohort? 278? Am I right?
Yes, thereabouts.
278. How many of you are in class? I want to ask him the question directly. 278. How many are in class?
51.
51. So can you see that the problem is actually Nigerians? Every time the electoral college makes room for a lot of people. But if you don't care, we can't teach you. Or if you think you know more than us, we also can't teach you. We've had people come on the college and tell us what is right and what's wrong, according to their people that have never even been. I remember I had to ask one, have you served in a political party? The person said no, and I said, shut up. I'm not nice enough. I don't think people should have opinions when you don't have any experience. Like maybe because they've operated your wife. This is how it sounds to me. Maybe because they've operated your wife through a C-section, you believe 6 years after that you can conduct your own operation, and people that were doctors you've learned. That's how you sound when you discuss politics. So how the electoral college plans to extend this thing? Yeah, we will be doing a lot more within the next 1 year. It's up to Nigerians to take what we're offering. It's 1 for us to give. It's 2 for Nigerians to accept. So thank you very much for putting that comment on. I hope I've been able to clarify what you were asking.
All right, thank you, Edie. We have a question in the chat box. What's the penalty for the violation of the offense of donating more than 50 million naira by an individual?
You see that section? I'm happy it's quoted on the what they call it. It's quoted on the PowerPoint. What did I say again? Don't ask me a question. Don't ask me a question on what's called. So since you've seen the number, look for the number on the Electoral Act. And this is not me being wicked or forming, I don't know. I know, but I'm not going to. I'm encouraging you, go and read it yourself. Don't let it not be like Zidi that said it. Go and read it. I think it will be better. Because the truth is, if we do not drive people to that place, people will not look at it. It's not something you scan through. As a Nigerian, you should know it. No question, sir.
All right. All right, Amang, I've asked you to unmute. Go ahead and ask your question.
Okay. Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Idi, sir. Okay, sorry. I have a question I want to ask about hold on, please. I want to read from the handout here, where you talked about no political appointee shall be a delegate of a voting election or be voted for in an election. I have an experience in the last election where an appointee of government was a delegate in a governorship election. In that situation, sir, I want to seek your advice.
A governorship primaries.
No, a general election. General election, sir.
No delegates in general elections.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's correct. Okay, so, sir, in a situation where we find out that there is an appointee who is a delegate in a convention, how do we challenge that? I mean, do we
Inform INEC.
Okay.
And the other people that want to win the election, if they see, they too will inform INEC, forming what they call it, a misnomer of that particular election. So it's law now. It's not. You think me too? I don't want to win. I'll leave somebody else to be delegate. No. It's not. It's not anything tenable. I think that is simple.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
All right, next we have Danladi. You can go ahead and ask your question. I've asked you to mute.
All right, good evening. Thank you, sir, for the enlightening session. I have some questions. The first is the part of the Electoral Act that appropriates some power to the INEC chair to, let's say, correct or reject reports from returning officers.
It does not appropriate the power to INEC chair. It appropriates the power to INEC.
Okay, to INEC. Okay. So my question now is, considering that in the true sense of the word, our INEC has not really achieved the independence they're supposed to have and be operating with, is there any particular check?
No, please educate me. How is INEC not independent? Because maybe I don't know.
Okay, because I look at it from the perspective that if the INEC is supposed to function as an independent electoral commission, but it gets to be appointed, like the head gets to be appointed by the president, then it gives me concern sometimes as to.
You seem to be skipping one part. From the way you're saying it, it makes it look like the INEC chair is only appointed by the president. You understand the whole chain it takes to appoint the INEC chairman. Because the president can nominate, it is subject to ratification by the National Assembly. If the National Assembly does not give go ahead, he cannot become INEC chairman because the president said it. So that's already a check and balance.
Okay, sir.
You must agree with the executive. So if the legislative is being what they call them, stamp, what they call them, rubber stamp, what do you call them? If they are playing fiddle with the executive, then people should elect executives that will do the real right challenging to the president. Rubber stamp. Thank you very much. I just couldn't think of what to call. So get the correct legislative, but there's already a check and balance because the president can only put forward the name of the INEC chair. He cannot ratify the appointment. The appointment is only, and INEC entirely, if you've read the Electoral Act, is subservient to the National Assembly, not even the executive arm of government. You need to read the Electoral Act, please. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Then my next question is sometimes there are conflicting court judgments. So how does INEC?
Even INEC is not superior to the court. So if it comes to conflicting judgments, whatever Supreme Court eventually interprets is what's correct. Because interpretation of the law that power is given to the Supreme Court. That has nothing to do with INEC. Once you carry the case to court, it's above INEC. Hope you know that. You know
Yes,
that,
sir.
right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, sir. So, sir, my last question: in a situation whereby there's a faction in a political party, and they hold parallel congresses, and each of the faction is claiming legitimacy, which of the congresses will INEC send its representatives to?
There is always, as much as you know that INEC does not mess with internal democracy or political parties. If you read the Electoral Act, you find out. INEC, political parties are independent. So all those factions and congresses and whatever we call themselves that happen or occur within political parties is up to them. But INEC remembers who was the last secretary, who was the last ratified. INEC refers to that and interacts with that till the party gets its act right and does an entire system properly.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, thank you, Edie. I can't see any hands up at the moment.
Okay, so I think I can be released early today, don't you think?
Okay, someone dropped a question in the chat box. INEC spent 355 billion in the 2020 election project. What's the justification for accepting support from so-called development partners? This is from Samuel. You said? He's asking you.
No, because I didn't collect money. Neither am I the one giving money. So why is he me answering the question? Anyway, let me just help you. Nigerians' elections cost quite a lot of money, and Nigeria cannot fund its own elections, being honest. So development partners help out. It's quite a lot of money. Nigeria spends more than as of 2023 elections, Nigeria spends more than $1 billion. And that's America spends as much. So don't say it's a Nigerian problem. It's because we're a big country. India spends as much. We're a big country. So development partners intervene. Even with American elections and Indian elections, development partners also intervene. So not everybody is Britain, that small place that is not up to Kaduna State. You can just do election and run around and everybody just be shouting. British election is so smooth. Something that a place that the entire UK is not as big as Kaduna State. So please.
Okay, thank you, Edie. I can't see any more hands, nor any more questions in the chat box.
Lisa, I think you should have a talk with chairman. Parties will be held liable for this kind of poor attendance. For me, this is appalling, and I'm very, very disappointed. And I expect you to take it very, very personal. So thank you, everyone. It was great being part of the class. I look forward to the next conversation with you and your next class. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Edie. Thank you, everyone. See you tomorrow in class.